In a time when the lands of Central Europe were wild and untamed, a young prince rose to shape the destiny of a nation. His name was Stephen, later crowned as the first king of Hungary, a ruler who forged a kingdom from chaos, united tribes into a people, and planted the seeds of faith that would endure through centuries. This is no ordinary tale of royalty and conquest. It is the story of a visionary leader who stood between the old world of pagan warriors and a new era of Christian civilization. Stephen's sword was tempered by wisdom, and his crown was worn not just for power, but for the promise of peace and faith. Join us as we travel through the forests and castles, the battles and councils, and the miracles that marked the life of a king whose legacy shaped the heart of Hungary and the Christian world alike. This is the story of Saint Stephen, a king whose flame of faith still burns bright. Chapter 1. The Making of a King. In the midst of a land divided by ancient rivalries and untamed wilderness, a child was born who would change the course of history forever. Stephen, the son of Gaza, the chieftain of the Magyar tribes, and Sarolt, a woman of noble lineage and deep faith, entered the world under the weight of expectation and destiny. Hungary was a land caught between two worlds, the old pagan ways of the nomadic tribes and the rising power of Christian Europe. It was a place where swords often decided fate, and faith was a fragile seed waiting to take root. From his earliest days, Stephen was different. Raised in a household that balanced tradition with the promise of a new future, he was educated by Christian mentors who opened his eyes to a vision far beyond tribal wars and fleeting alliances. He learned of a kingdom built not only on the strength of arms, but on the foundation of justice, peace, and devotion to God. The stories of saints and martyrs filled his young mind, planting the seeds of a faith that would soon guide his every step. Yet the path to kingship was riddled with danger and opposition. The tribes around him were fiercely independent, reluctant to bow to any one ruler, especially one who preached a faith many saw as foreign. Rival chieftains threatened rebellion, and a shadow of pagan customs lingered in the forests and villages. Stephen's resolve was tested from the start, but he carried within him a fire that no blade could extinguish. As he grew into a young man, Stephen's wisdom and strength earned him the loyalty of many, yet his true power came from his unwavering faith. He sought alliances beyond his borders, forging ties with the Christian kingdoms of Europe and the Holy Roman Empire. These alliances were not mere politics. They were a declaration that Hungary would rise as a Christian nation, standing firm in the face of a turbulent world. When the day of his coronation arrived, it was more than a celebration. It was a declaration of a new era. Crowned with a sacred relic sent by the Pope himself, Stephen took the throne as the first Christian king of Hungary. His crown symbolized a sacred trust, to lead his people with justice, to defend the faith, and to unite a fractured land under the banner of Christ. But ruling a kingdom was no easy task. Stephen faced uprisings, external threats, and the constant challenge of weaving faith into the fabric of everyday life. His journey from prince to king was a saga of courage, wisdom, and sacrifice, a tale that would echo through centuries. This was only the beginning of Saint Stephen's story, the story of a king who became a beacon of hope and a saint whose legacy continues to shine. Chapter 2. Trials and Triumphs. King Stephen's reign was marked by relentless challenges that tested both his leadership and his faith. From the very start, he faced opposition from powerful nobles and pagan lords unwilling to surrender their ancient ways. The land was still rife with tribal conflicts, and the old gods were deeply rooted in the hearts of many. Stephen knew that his mission was more than political unification. It was a spiritual transformation. Determined to build a kingdom that honored God, Stephen set about organizing the church in Hungary. He invited bishops and priests from across Europe, establishing churches, monasteries, and schools to nurture the faith of his people. This was a monumental task, as many resisted the new religion, fearing it would erase their traditions and freedoms. Stephen's strength was his unwavering commitment to justice and mercy. He ruled not with an iron fist alone, but with a vision of peace and order. His laws protected the weak and punished the wicked. He championed the cause of the poor and the oppressed, embodying the Christian ideal of servant leadership. His court became a place of wisdom and fairness, inspiring loyalty among his followers and respect from his enemies. But power invited danger. Rebel factions rose against him, supported by those who saw Christianity as a threat to their way of life. Stephen faced battles both on the battlefield and within his own court. There were moments when his crown seemed at risk, when treachery and rebellion threatened to tear his kingdom apart. Through it all, Stephen remained steadfast. He sought guidance through prayer and counsel, drawing strength from his faith and the example of the saints he admired. His courage inspired his people to stand firm alongside him, forging a unity that was both political and spiritual. One of the greatest tests came when Stephen faced a rebellion led by his own family. Yet even in such turmoil, he showed mercy and forgiveness, choosing reconciliation over revenge. This act not only secured his reign, but deepened the bonds of trust and faith in his kingdom. Stephen's efforts bore fruit. Hungary emerged as a shining beacon of Christian Europe, its people united under a common faith and a just ruler. His legacy was not just in the lands he governed, but in the hearts he transformed. Chapter 3: The Legacy of a Saintly King. As King Stephen grew older, his thoughts turned increasingly to the future of his kingdom and the soul of his people. He understood that his mission was not only to rule, but to build a lasting foundation for faith and justice in Hungary. His greatest concern was to ensure that the church he had nurtured would continue to flourish long after his reign. Stephen devoted his final years to strengthening the ties between Hungary and the wider Christian world. He maintained close relations with the Pope and other European rulers, securing recognition for his kingdom as a true Christian state. This international support helped protect Hungary from external threats and further legitimize Stephen's vision. But perhaps the most enduring part of Stephen's legacy was his unwavering personal holiness. Despite the burdens of kingship, he lived a life marked by humility, prayer, and charity. He was known to fast regularly, to visit the sick and poor, and to seek the guidance of the church's leaders. His example inspired not only his subjects but generations to come. Near the end of his life, Stephen made a pilgrimage to the Abbey of Pannonhalma, where he prayed for the future of Hungary and entrusted his kingdom to God's care. He was deeply aware of his mortality, but confident that his work had laid a firm foundation. After his death in 1038, Stephen's reputation for sanctity grew rapidly. Miracles were reported at his tomb, and stories of his just and holy rule spread far beyond Hungary's borders. In 1083, he was canonized as Saint Stephen, the first king of Hungary to be declared a saint. Saint Stephen's crown became a symbol not just of political authority, but of divine blessing and Christian kingship. His feast day, celebrated on August 20th, remains a national holiday in Hungary, a day of remembrance and gratitude. The story of Saint Stephen is one of faith forged in fire, of a ruler who chose to serve rather than dominate. His life reminds us that true leadership requires courage, humility, and an unshakable commitment to justice and peace. His legacy endures in the churches and communities he helped build, in the faith of a nation, and in the timeless example of a saintly king who dared to dream of a kingdom ruled by God's grace. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and legacy of Saint Stephen, King of Hungary. His story is a powerful testament to faith, courage, and the enduring impact of a life dedicated to God and country. We hope his example inspires you to face your own challenges with strength and humility. If you enjoyed this narration, please consider subscribing to our channel for more stories of saints and heroes who shaped history with their faith. May the legacy of Saint Stephen continue to light your path.